The phantom vessel. The vastness of space shimmered as reality itself seemed to tear open near the Axiom trade hub Centauri Prime. Alarms blared across the massive station as sensors detected an anomaly forming at the edge of the system. Security Chief Vextor, a tall, six-limbed Axiom with iridescent scales, stared at the readings with all four of his eyes widening in disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered, mandibles clicking in agitation. "Run the identification protocols again." His subordinate, a younger Axiom named Krill, frantically tapped the control panel. "Sir, we've run it 3 times. The signature matches perfectly with the CSS Defiance, Earth's last flagship, the warship that disappeared during the Battle of Sol, 40 years ago." Vextor's scales shifted from their normal blue to an alarmed purple. The Defiance was legend, a nightmare that still haunted Axiom military doctrine. The massive human warship had vanished during the final battle for Earth, presumed destroyed along with humanity's last organized resistance. Its disappearance had coincided with the surrender of the remaining human forces and the beginning of the Protection Era, as the Axiom propaganda called it. "Alert High Command immediately," Vextor ordered. "All security forces to battle stations." Throughout Centauri Prime, humans glanced up from their workstations as emergency lights flashed. The station housed nearly 10,000 humans, all serving the Axiom Confederation in various capacities: maintenance workers, technicians, and service providers. Under the strict guidance of their Axiom overseers, they were considered fortunate compared to those laboring in the mining colonies. Among them was Maya Chen, head engineer of the station's primary reactor core. At 35, she had spent her entire life under Axiom rule, but carried the stories of freedom passed down by her parents and grandparents. When the alarm sounded, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. Her wrist communicator vibrated with an unauthorized signal. Glancing around to ensure no Axiom was watching, she examined the message, coordinates followed by 5 simple words: "We have returned. Prepare them." The message was signed with an old Earth Navy encryption key. Across the system, Axiom patrol vessels scrambled toward the anomaly. Through the tear in space emerged a massive vessel, its dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Nearly a mile long with sharp angular lines and unmistakable weapon ports running its length, the CSS Defiance slid into normal space like a predator entering hunting grounds. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Elena Reyes stood alone. The command center, designed for a crew of 50, contained only her slender figure. At 42, she looked exactly as she had 40 years earlier: olive skin, sharp eyes, and dark hair pulled into a tight bun. She should have been in her 80s now, if time had flowed normally for her. "Begin passive scans," she commanded. "Map all changes since our departure." Scanning. The ship's eye responded, its voice calm and feminine. "Warning: multiple Axiom vessels detected on intercept course." Elena nodded, unsurprised. "Excellent. They're still predictable." She touched a control panel, and screens illuminated around her, displaying the faces of hundreds of humans across the galaxy, all receiving her coded message. "Let's see who answers the call." On the Axiom diplomatic vessel racing toward the Defiance, Ambassador Zex paced nervously. He had been ordered to make contact with the human ship and determine its intentions, preferably without starting another war. The Axiom had defeated humanity, yes, but it had been costly. If the Defiance had somehow found allies or new technology during its long absence— "Sir," his communications officer called. "We're being hailed by the human vessel." "On screen," Zex ordered, straightening his ceremonial collar. The view screen lit up to show Elena Reyes' face. The human looked calm, almost amused. "Ambassador," Elena said with a slight nod. "I am Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth ship Defiance. I request information. We've been away for some time." Zex tried to hide his surprise at seeing the human in a proper military uniform. These days, humans wore work clothes or service uniforms, befitting their status as a protected species. Captain Reyes, Zex replied carefully, your ship's appearance is quite unexpected. The war ended 40 years ago. Earth is now under Confederation protection. Delina's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flashed in her eyes. Protection. I see. And the status of human colonies. They contribute to the Confederation economy through resource extraction and technical services, Zex said, using the official phrase for what was essentially forced labor. How generous of you to include us, Alina said, her voice friendly but her eyes cold. I'll need to speak with human representatives. That might be difficult. There are no human officials anymore. All humans report to Confederation administrators. Alina was silent for a moment. I see. Then perhaps I should speak with your leaders directly. On Centauri Prime, Maya Chen slipped away from her post, claiming equipment malfunction needed her attention. Her Axiom supervisor barely looked at her. Humans were considered inferior, but their technical skills were valued. Instead of heading to the maintenance bay, she made her way to a rarely used access tunnel. Inside, she activated a small transmitter hidden behind a loose panel, something she had built in secret over many months. Ghost frequency active. Message received. Awaiting instructions, she whispered. After a moment of static, a voice replied. Alina Reyes' voice. Engineer Chen, your grandfather served on the Defiance before my departure. He spoke highly of your family. Maya gasped. The family stories were true. Captain Reyes, how is this possible? You haven't aged in 40 years. Where I went, time flows differently, Alina answered. Listen carefully. The Defiance didn't just survive. It found something that will change everything. But I need to know what happened while we were gone. Tell me about Earth. Maya swallowed hard. Earth is a mining colony now. Most humans work in dangerous areas the Axiom won't risk themselves in. The best of us are taken as technical experts. They let us live if we're useful. There was silence on the other end. Then Alina spoke, her voice tight with controlled rage. And our military? Disbanded. Weapons forbidden to humans. Captain, what happened to the Defiance? The stories say you were sent through an experimental wormhole. We were. Earth's last scientists gave us a mission. Find help or find a weapon. We found both. But I need insiders, Maya. People like you. In the darkness of space, several Axiom warships approached the Defiance. On the flagship, Admiral Krell watched the human vessel with growing concern. The ship's weapon systems were unlike anything he had seen before. New technology had been added to its hull, technology that didn't match any known species. All ships, prepare to surround the human vessel, he ordered. If it makes any aggressive move, destroy it immediately. Back on the Defiance, Alina watched the approaching ships on her screen. They never learn, she said to herself. Then to the ship, activate the phase shield. Phase shield activated, the ship responded. Outside, the massive Defiance seemed to shimmer and then simply vanished. The Axiom ship's sensors went wild trying to locate it, but the warship was gone. In the High Council chamber on the Axiom homeworld, alarms sounded. The counselors looked at each other in confusion until the Supreme Leader entered, his face grim. The humans have returned, he announced, and they have found the one thing we feared they might discover. What's that? Asked a younger counselor. The Supreme Leader's expression darkened. The truth about how the war really started, and technology from the ancients. He turned to his security chief. Find every human with technical skills or military background. Detain them all. Now. But it was already too late. Across the galaxy, humans were receiving the message. The Defiance had returned, and this time, it wasn't running away. Maya Chen had worked frantically for 3 days, placing small devices throughout Centauri Prime's critical systems. Each device, no larger than her thumbnail, contained technology beyond anything the Axiom possessed. quantum entanglement transmitters that couldn't be detected by conventional means. She was placing the final device near the station's main communications array when an Axiom security team rounded the corner. "Human, halt," the lead guard called out. Maya froze, her heart pounding. Discovery meant immediate execution. The Axiom had been arresting humans with even remote connections to the old military. "I'm conducting authorized maintenance," she said, keeping her eyes down as expected of humans. The guard checked his datapad. "There is no scheduled maintenance for this section. You will come with us for questioning." As the guards surrounded her, every light on the station suddenly went out. Emergency systems kicked in, but they too failed seconds later. In the darkness, Maya felt a hand grab her arm, a human hand. "Move now," a man's voice whispered. "Captain's orders." Together they ran through the darkened corridors as confusion spread throughout the station. They reached a maintenance airlock where a small shuttle waited, unlike any vessel Maya had ever seen. Its hull was dark, almost absorbing the light around it. As they boarded, Maya caught her first glimpse of her rescuer, a young man with determined eyes. "I'm Marcus," he said, "one of the Defiance's scout team. We've been placing operatives throughout Axiom space for weeks." "Weeks?" Maya asked, confused. "But the Defiance only arrived 3 days ago." Marcus smiled as he piloted the shuttle away from the station. "That's what they were meant to see. We've actually been back for months, working in secret. The Defiance you saw was just the first public appearance." The shuttle accelerated, then seemed to slip sideways through reality itself, leaving the Axiom vessels scrambling in their wake. Hours later, Maya stood on the bridge of the Defiance, facing Captain Elena Reyes in person. Around them, the bridge hummed with activity. Dozens of humans monitoring systems and coordinating operations. All wore the same dark uniforms with the old Earth emblem. "Welcome aboard, Engineer Chin," Elena said. "You've taken your first step into a larger struggle." "How?" Maya asked, gesturing to the crew. "Where did all these people come from? How do you have a functional military force when humans have been subjugated for decades?" Elena's expression grew solemn. "When the Defiance entered the wormhole, there were 200 crew members aboard. Where we went, a region called the Void. Time flows differently. What was 40 years for you was nearly 2 centuries for us." She gestured to a viewport, and Maya gasped as the view changed to show not just the Defiance, but dozens of ships, a fleet hidden in what appeared to be a pocket of distorted space. "We found the remains of an ancient civilization," Elena continued. "They called themselves the Precursors. They mastered technologies we can barely comprehend, manipulation of time, space, even reality itself. Their civilization fell millions of years ago, but their automated systems remained." She gestured to the fleet. "These ships were built by those systems, following our designs, and they're crewed by humans." "Impossible," Maya whispered. "There weren't enough humans on the Defiance to crew all these vessels. In the time-altered space where we lived, we built a colony, had families. Generations passed. There are now over 20,000 humans who have never seen Earth. They've been training all their lives for this moment." Maya stared in awe at the fleet. For 40 years, she had lived as a second-class citizen, believing humans were alone in their suffering. Now hope spread through her like wildfire. "What's the plan?" she asked. Elena's eyes hardened with determination. "First, we build our network. Then we expose the truth. And finally, we take back what's ours." On the Axiom homeworld, the High Council received the first reports of simultaneous communications failures across multiple systems, small but critical malfunctions in their defense networks, unauthorized access to their historical archives. The Supreme Leader stared at the reports with growing dread. It wasn't just the return of a single warship, it was the beginning of a carefully orchestrated rebellion. "They know," he whispered to his inner circle. "They've discovered what we did to start the war, what we've hidden for all these years." His advisors shifted uncomfortably. "The humans can't possibly win," one said. Even with advanced technology, they're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. The Supreme Leader wasn't so sure. For the first time in 40 years, he felt something he thought the Axiom had eliminated from the galaxy. Fear. Reclamation. 3 months after the Defiance's appearance, the Axiom Confederation was in chaos. What had begun as isolated incidents had exploded into a full-scale rebellion. Human workers across dozens of systems had disappeared overnight. Critical infrastructure failed mysteriously, and Axiom military vessels reported encounters with ships that appeared and vanished like ghosts. On the mining world of Helios 9, thousands of human laborers had revolted, overrunning their Axiom overseers with nothing but mining tools and the element of surprise. When Axiom reinforcements arrived, they found the humans gone, evacuated by vessels that left no trace. In the war room aboard the Defiance, Captain Elena Reyes studied a holographic map showing the spreading rebellion. Maya Chen stood beside her, now wearing the dark uniform of the Ghost Fleet, as the humans had come to call their forces. Sectors 7 through 12 are now completely free of Axiom control, Maya reported. Our network has successfully evacuated over 3 million humans from high-risk areas. Elena nodded, her expression grim but satisfied. And the Axiom response? As predicted, they've pulled forces from the outer systems to reinforce their core worlds. Their fleet is spread thin. Marcus, who had become Melina's first officer, joined them at the map. The intelligence team has successfully accessed the Axiom historical archives. We're decrypting the data now, but what we found already confirms your suspicions, Captain. Elena's jaw tightened. They started the war. They attacked Earth first and blamed it on a human separatist faction. Worse, Marcus said, they engineered the entire conflict. The attack on their colony was carried out by their own special forces, disguised as humans. They needed a pretext for war because their scientists had discovered something about Earth, something that terrified them. The precursor connection, Elena said. They discovered that humans were somehow linked to the ancient race that once dominated the galaxy. Maya looked between them, confused. What does that mean? Are we descendants of these precursors? Not descendants, Elena explained. Inheritors. The precursors didn't die out naturally. They evolved. Their consciousness moved beyond physical form, but before they left, they seeded certain planets with species that could one day access their legacy. Earth was one of those planets. She touched a control, and the holographic display changed to show complex DNA sequences. Human DNA contains dormant sequences, code, essentially, that allows us to interface with precursor technology in ways the Axiom cannot. They discovered this during early contact and realized what it meant. That we would eventually gain access to technology far beyond theirs. Maya whispered, understanding dawning. Exactly. So they manufactured a war to destroy us before we could discover our inheritance. The three fell silent, contemplating the magnitude of the deception that had cost billions of human lives and relegated the survivors to servitude. The decryption is complete, announced the ship's eye. Full access to Axiom military files has been achieved. The holographic display shifted again, now showing the location of Earth, the homeworld that had been turned into a mining colony, its once blue skies now gray with industrial haze. It's time, Elena said, her voice steely with resolve. Transmit the evidence to every system in the Confederation. Let everyone, Axiom and human alike, know the truth. Marcus nodded. And the final phase. Elena's eyes glinted with determination. Prepare the fleet. We're going home. On Earth, in what had once been the city of New Geneva, Administrator Zex reviewed the latest production reports with satisfaction. Under his 40-year guidance, the human homeworld had become the Confederation's most profitable mining operation. The humans were worked hard but kept just healthy enough to maintain productivity. His satisfaction vanished as every screen in his office suddenly activated, displaying the same message. The truth revealed. What followed was a comprehensive presentation of the Axiom's deception, the manufactured attack, the deliberate genocide, the suppression of humanity to prevent them from claiming their precursor inheritance. The broadcast wasn't just playing in his office. It was streaming to every communication device in the Confederation. "Shut it down," he screamed to his staff. "Shut it down now." But the broadcast continued, unhindered by their attempts to block it. The final image showed Captain Elena Reyes of the CSS Defiance. "People of the galaxy," she said, her voice calm but forceful. "For 40 years, the Axiom Confederation has built its empire on a foundation of lies. Today, those lies end. Today, humanity reclaims its future." As the broadcast concluded, the sky above New Geneva darkened as hundreds of ships appeared in low orbit, the Ghost Fleet, revealed in its full might for the first time. Zex stared in horror as his security chief burst into the office. "Sir, human workers are revolting in all sectors. And our orbital defenses, they're not responding. Order all available forces to crush the rebellion," Zex commanded, "and contact High Command for reinforcements." But High Command wasn't responding either. Across the galaxy, the Axiom's carefully maintained control was collapsing in the face of coordinated human action and the sudden appearance of ships that seemed to materialize from nowhere. On the bridge of the Defiance, now in orbit around Earth, Elena watched as Axiom vessels scrambled to form a defensive perimeter. "They're attempting to consolidate their forces," Marcus reported. "Estimated time until their main fleet arrives from the homeworld." 6 hours. Elena nodded. "More than enough time. Begin the ground operation." Throughout Earth's major cities, Ghost Fleet transports appeared, deploying soldiers and equipment to support the rebelling workers. The human uprising, armed with precursor-derived weapons that could penetrate Axiom defenses, quickly overwhelmed the unprepared occupation forces. Maya led a team to secure the planetary defense grid, now repurposed to protect Earth from the incoming Axiom fleet. As her squad entered the main control center in New Geneva, they encountered Administrator Zex attempting to purge the systems. "Stop," Maya ordered, her weapon trained on the Axiom official. Zex turned, his 4 eyes widening at the sight of a human in military uniform. "This is madness," he said. "You cannot hope to defeat the full might of the Confederation. Even with your stolen technology, you are outnumbered." "Numbers didn't help you today," Maya replied, gesturing for her team to secure the facility. "And they won't help you tomorrow. Your time is over, Administrator." As her team worked to integrate the defense grid with Ghost Fleet systems, Maya received a communication from Captain Reyes. "Engineer Chen, status report. Defense grid secured, Captain. We're implementing the phase shield technology now. Earth will be protected when their fleet arrives." "Excellent work. We've just received word from the other liberation teams. All primary objectives have been secured. Earth is free." Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. Tears of joy, of release, of vindication. After 40 years of oppression, her people were taking back their home. 6 hours later, the Axiom reinforcement fleet arrived, nearly 1,000 warships led by the Supreme Leader himself. They emerged from faster-than-light travel to find Earth surrounded by the Ghost Fleet, now fully visible and in defensive formation. On the command ship, the Supreme Leader received a transmission from the Defiance. "This is Captain Elena Reyes. Earth is now under the protection of the Ghost Fleet. Your forces on the surface have surrendered. You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully." The Supreme Leader snarled. "You think your handful of ships can stand against the might of the Axiom? Your technology may be advanced, but you are still just humans. Weak, fragile creatures who should have accepted their place in the universe." Elena's expression remained calm. "We offered peace. Remember that." The transmission ended, and the Supreme Leader ordered his fleet to attack. The Axiom ships surged forward, weapons charging, only to find themselves firing at empty space as the Ghost Fleet seemed to phase in and out of reality, impossible to target effectively. Meanwhile, the human ship struck with devastating precision, their weapons bypassing Axiom shields as if they weren't there. Within an hour, half the Axiom fleet was disabled or destroyed. The remainder, including the Supreme Leader's command ship, attempted to retreat, only to find their hyperdrives mysteriously offline. Aboard the Defiance, Alina watched the battle's conclusion with a mixture of satisfaction and regret for the lives lost. Even Axiom lives. Their command ship is hailing us, Marcus reported. The Supreme Leader is requesting terms. Alina nodded. On screen, the Supreme Leader appeared, his scales now pale with defeat. What are your demands, human? Unconditional surrender of all Axiom forces, immediate liberation of all human settlements and colonies, reparations for 40 years of exploitation. And if we refuse? Alina's expression hardened. We have the capability to extend our phase shield technology to every human world simultaneously. Your military would be rendered ineffective overnight. This isn't a negotiation. It's a courtesy notification. The Supreme Leader stared in silent fury, then finally nodded. We will comply. 1 month later, Alina Reyes stood in what had once been the Axiom Administrative Headquarters in New Geneva, now repurposed as the seat of the newly formed Human Federation. Around her were representatives from every human colony and settlement, including Maya Chen, now serving as Earth's Chief Science Officer. The Axiom Confederation has formally recognized our independence, Alina announced. All human worlds are now free, and reparations have begun. But our work is just beginning. She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy, with human territories highlighted in blue. For too long, humanity was kept from its true potential. The precursors chose us for a reason, not to dominate, but to guide. Their technology isn't meant for conquest, but for healing, exploration, and growth. Maya stepped forward. We've already begun adapting precursor medical technology. Diseases that plagued us for centuries can now be cured. Worlds damaged by Axiom mining can be restored. And what of the Axiom? Asked one of the representatives. Can we ever trust them again? Alina considered the question carefully. Trust must be earned. But isolation isn't the answer either. The precursors didn't intend for us to stand alone, but to help guide all sentient species toward a better future. She looked out at the assembly. We've won our freedom. Now we must prove we deserve it. Not through dominance, but through wisdom. Not through fear, but through compassion. The precursors evolved beyond physical form because they learned that true power isn't in conquering worlds, but in understanding them. As the assembly discussed the path forward, Alina stepped away to a quiet balcony overlooking the recovering city. Marcus joined her there. Having second thoughts, Captain? He asked. Alina shook her head. No, just remembering what my father told me before we entered the wormhole. He said we were being sent away not just to save humanity, but to find what humanity had lost. Our purpose. And did we? Alina watched as the sun set over a free Earth for the first time in 40 years. I think we're just beginning to discover it. In orbit above Earth, the Defiance maintained its silent vigil, a symbol of humanity's return from the brink of extinction, and its emergence as inheritors of an ancient legacy that would reshape the galaxy for generations to come. But in the vast emptiness beyond the edge of known space, something stirred. Ancient systems awakening in response to humanity's reclamation of their inheritance. The precursors had left more than just technology behind. They had left guardians, tests, and trials. Humanity's journey was just beginning.